So, I couldn't sleep. It's currently 5 in the morning, and I could not fall asleep because of one Legend of Zelda Theory that just kept on hitting my brain like a little woodpecker on wood. I couldn't rest without saying this to someone. And nobody in my house knows what I'm talking about. So, I've decided to film it and throw it on my YouTube channel like everything else that I do. Hi, hello, I'm the Pterodactyl, and that is what my YouTube channel is about. Me ranting into the void and hoping that people are entertained. It's funnier knowing that my mumsy will watch this later. Meaning that the people in my house still will watch this video, despite me not saying it at them specifically. Anyway, the theory that I have today regards Ganondorf / Ganon's weapon. Now, when you think of the big bad of the Legend of Zelda series, Ganon / Ganondorf, what weapon comes to mind? A sword, right? He sword fights Link, right? No, you are incorrect. And I'm sure that a lot of people out there who would click on a Legend of Zelda Theory video actually got that answer correct. They said either he has 3 weapons, or it depends on if you're fighting Ganon or Ganondorf. So the answer is Ganondorf uses swords / one sword, depending, and magic. Meanwhile, his beast form Ganon uses magic and a trident. So where did a trident come from? Like, genuinely asking? Why a trident? I'm confusion. And so my brain would not let me rest until I answered this question for myself. Oh, my hair's doing something weird. I'm not gonna fix that. So allow me to present to you the Ganon Trident Conspiracy Theory Board. It's beautiful. It doesn't make a lot of sense until I explain it, but it is in fact beautiful. It would in fact be more beautiful if I had any red yarn left. However, I used all of my available red yarn on this scarf years ago. And like I said, it's 5 in the morning. My craft stores aren't open, so I cannot go buy more yarn. So instead I used the yarn that I had on hand, which is this dark blue color, which comes across as black as far as I can tell right now. But it's blue, and we'll pretend that I picked blue for the purpose of the Triforce of Wisdom, and I'm being smart about this, and this is definitely not just the ramblings of somebody overly invested in the Legend of Zelda series. I'm going to put the trident down now. I know the conspiracy board looks like a lot. I will do my best to explain it in a way that makes sense. So, we have to start with the trident itself. The trident is only ever used by Ganon. Never Ganondorf, just Ganon. So we can connect trident to Ganon. Now, Ganon exists in the Downfall timeline, wielding the trident, and we know that because actually, Ganon with a trident existed well before the introduction of Ganondorf. Back in A Link to the Past, Ganon officially had his trident as his weapon. However, we have vague evidence to suggest that when creating Zelda 1, Ganon was supposed to have a trident as a weapon, and for whatever reason they couldn't add it or didn't add it. But we have official artwork by, and I'm about to butcher a name pronunciation, I am very sorry, Katsuya Terada, and this was officially published in Nintendo's player guide for Zelda 1. This player guide came out after A Link to the Past, so, like, it's questionable whether we can count it as Ganon having the trident. But either way, Ganon with the trident exists firmly in the Downfall timeline. We also have Ganon with the Trident in Four Swords Adventure, which I will get back to in a minute. Get used to me saying Ganon and Ganondorf. It constant throughout today's video. And then we get to Ocarina of Time, where neither Ganondorf nor Ganon uses a trident. Which is very interesting and weird because A Link to the Past's Ganon is Ocarina of Time's Ganondorf. Like, they are the same person, just Ganondorf won and took on the form of Ganon permanently for A Link to the Past's timeline. So when did he pick up the trident? When between killing the hero of time and returning back to the world in A Link to the Past, did he decide, yeah, no, I want to wield a trident now? That seems cooler with my giant pig form. When did that happen? That doesn't mean we don't see a trident in Ocarina of Time, though, because, weirdly enough, Phantom Ganon has the trident in that game. And I will circle back to Phantom Ganon. For now, just know that we can connect Ganon to the Downfall timeline. Downfall timeline connects back to Ganondorf of Ocarina of Time, and Ganondorf of Ocarina of Time connects to Phantom Ganon. But going back here, Ganon also connects to Four Swords Adventure, where we actually get lore for the trident itself. So this trident is evil, which gives us evil weapon. So here is the lore of the trident in Four Swords Adventures. So there is a pyramid that was built by the cacti race known as the Zuna, who we only ever see here and never again. So they build this pyramid, and then they leave. Later on they leave. And they have no connection whatsoever to the Gerudo, who will later move into that area of the desert and will take to seeing the pyramid as a sacred place. And the Gerudo alone decide who can and cannot go into the pyramid as they try to protect it, or maybe protect the world from what's inside of it. What's inside of it being the Trident. Trident in Four Sword Adventures houses a great power and evil inside of it. And I've written down the direct quote. In English, it says that the Trident, quote, houses great evil. In Japanese, however, it says, it calls it the malicious Trident of demons. Either way, the Trident is pure chaos and evil, right? And we know that because when a young Ganondorf from Four Swords Adventure, different from Ocarina of Time, hears the call of it and heeds the call of it and goes into the pyramid against his people's wishes, and he picks it up, he is transformed into the beast known as Ganon, which would be the first time that that happens in the timeline. Because Four Swords Adventure comes before Ocarina of Time. But the reason that I care about any of this, the reason that Ganondorf's Trident has been haunting me since I started thinking about it, is because it's the linchpin to the idea that Four Swords Adventures has to come before Ocarina of Time. It has to directly follow Minish Cap. It cannot go after Twilight Princess. That doesn't make sense. Because of the Trident. The Trident and its appearances mean everything. But yeah, that is all the information we actually have on the Trident back in Four Swords Adventures. And now I think we can look back to the timeline a bit. So, the Trident, which is an evil weapon, is pulled out by the Ganondorf of Four Swords Adventures and transforms him into the beast known as Ganon. This form of Ganon is then beaten by the hero of the Four Sword and sealed away. We don't know what happens to the Trident after that, because the Trident is a physical weapon, and we know it's been sealed away before, and it's been sealed away separately, being that it was sealed away in the pyramid in the past by someone. We don't know who. We don't know if it was the Zuna. We don't know if the Gerudo did it, sealed it away later, or if there was a hero in between, Koth, the hero of men, Koth, that sealed away the Trident. But it's physically separate from Ganondorf, or Ganon. So where did it go? And why is it that the next time that we see the Trident in canon is in Ocarina of Time, not in the hands of Ganon/Ganondorf, but in his Phantom? Phantom Ganon wields the Trident here. And wanna know what's really weird? We have two different forms of Phantom Ganon made by the same Ganondorf. Over here in Wind Waker, we have a much more beastly form, one that more invokes the image of the beast Ganon. And he wields the sword of Ganondorf. Whereas in Ocarina of Time, we have a Phantom Ganon who looks exactly like Ganondorf riding his horse, but with the Trident of Ganon. What is going on? Because these are clearly two separate things made by the same guy. So what changed? And if you are arguing that Wind Waker has a very different style to Ocarina of Time, this is not just about style. These are two different ideas. Like, this is meant to evoke the thought of Ganon, whereas this is meant to be a scary echo of Ganondorf. And yet this one has the weapon of Ganondorf, and this one has the weapon of Ganon, and it isn't seen anywhere else in Ocarina of Time. What? So let's go back. Let's go back up to the top. Ganon's Trident is an evil weapon. It's an evil weapon with its own spirit or soul, and one nowhere else we see that in Twilight Princess with the mini-boss known as Death Sword. This is a sword that is tied down with multiple, warding charms around it to seal away the evil that is Death Sword. And then once it attacks, when you're in your Hylian form, you can't see it. You just see the sword swinging around. But when you go into your wolf form, you can see that it's this demon wielding the sword itself. Which is very interesting, because this gives the same vibe of a weapon with a spirit of evil inside of it. A demon inside of it. Just like Ganon's Trident. But also, it evokes Girahim, the Sword of Demise, because Girahim is a demon, and he is a sword. Not only that, when you look at Death's sword, his sword is very similar to the one wielded by Wind Waker's Phantom Ganon, and it's also iffy similar to the one wielded by Demise, being that it is a large greatsword. However, it has more in common with Phantom Ganon's sword than Demise's sword, where Demise's is like a double-edged going on. Both of these are more like cleavers. But interestingly enough, this isn't the only time we see a weapon that is similar to Demise's weapon. And for that, we have to go to the non-canon game, Hyrule Warriors, which I treat as canon. You can pry that from my cold, dead hands, Nintendo. Also, I'm very angry about where they placed Echoes of Wisdom. They're wrong. They're incorrect, and I'll make a whole other video about that someday when I can't sleep again. Hyrule Warriors. So every character has a weapon or two, or multiple. Link has so many. I want to say 5. Anyway, some characters have multiple weapons. One of those characters being Ganondorf. So his two weapons are his great swords, and he has two of them, interestingly, in this one. But then he also has a trident. And so as you get better versions of your swords, of your weapons, they get different names, each of them being like a little reference and nod to something of a past game. Both of Ganondorf's weapons, at their peak form, evoke demise. So for Ganondorf's trident, it has 3 names, right? Each weapon has 3 names. The Thief's Trident, which goes back to, going more back to Ocarina of Time, where Ganon is the Thief King, the King of Thieves. The King of Evil Trident, going back to A Link to the Past, and Four Swords Adventures, where Ganon and Ganondorf are the King of Evil. And lastly, the Trident of Demise. And it's meant to look like it is Demise's weapon. It has this black, red, and gold color scheme, very similar to Demise himself. But here's the thing. Demise only ever used a sword. So then, why is there a trident of Demise? The Thieves' Trident makes sense, as Ocarina of Time Ganondorf is called the King of Thieves, and same to A Link to the Past being the King of Evil. Both of those are titles of Ganon/Ganondorf. But Demise, he's not Demise. He's just a reincarnation of Demise's hatred specifically. And as for Ganon's swords, they are the Swords of Despair, Swords of Darkness, and the Swords of Demise. You could just be that these are just name titles amping up to the biggest bad that we've ever faced in the Legend of Zelda, a demonic god, that being Demise, or as I like to call him, Denise. Anyway, but that feels too easy. Especially if you're someone who wants to write off Hyrule Warriors. And especially once you've started to put all of this together, which I'm sure you've started to. Because I have a theory. I have an insane, bonkers theory. So allow me to explain one last thing before I get to the theory. What is up with Phantom Ganon? What is going on there? My hair was bothering me, so I put it back up. And it looks worse. Okay. There's one last thing I didn't mention earlier. A little bit of information about Phantom Ganon. Phantom Ganon is said to be a ghost created by Ganondorf to protect the Forest Temple. That's why he's there. And then when Link defeats him, when Link, the hero of time, defeats Phantom Ganon, Ganondorf says something interesting. Ganondorf says that he dismisses Phantom Ganon to the realm between worlds after it fails to kill Link. Which really, really got my gears turning. So allow me to put the entire conspiracy board together for you in a story. The story of Girahim. So back in Skyward Sword, Girahim tried desperately to revive his master Denise. Demise. Denise. I like calling him Denise, it's funnier. Thank you, autocorrect. However, he fails. We don't know what happens to Girahim after that, though. We don't see Link or Zelda dealing with him because, well, Demise died, and the game ends. No clue what happens to Girahim. We do know, however, that later on the surface there would be demons that popped up and caused a war. Bit of a kerfuffle. But then it was ended by the hero of men working with the Minish. And I would like to pose the theory that war, that skirmish that the hero of men had to fight in was led by Girahim, who came back with a vengeance. he was going to do it himself this time. He couldn't resurrect Demise anymore. But he could try to kill the descendants of Link and Zelda. So he tried. But he failed thanks to the hero of men. And he was sealed away inside of the sacred pyramid. A pyramid built by the Zuna. And later, when the Zuna moved away further into the desert, the Gerudo would take up home there in Gerudo Desert, and they would stop anyone from getting into the temple, into the pyramid, so that way no one would disturb the evil trident, the evil weapon hidden within. Now we know that Girahim can shift forms, right? He shifts between his normal form, his more demonic form, and then his sword form. So what's to say he can't switch forms of his weapon as well to take on something most comfortable to the wielder? And it just so happens that the next time that somebody wields Girahim as a weapon is in Four Swords Adventure with the Ganondorf from then, who would have been raised by the Gerudo, who we know prefer spears and long weapons. So he would be more trained in a trident, meaning Girahim would take on that form to suit him. And along with that, Girahim would give his power to this Ganondorf from Four Sword Adventure, turning him into the beast known as Ganon. But then that would fail. And this time, Girahim gave just about all of his power, right, to make this transformation. And the Ganon was sealed away. And Girahim was left once again as just a weapon, but this time he couldn't even muster the force or the energy to pick himself back up and try again. He'd been sealed away for a long time, and then he gave his power for this transformation, so he had to regain it. And then the next time that Demise's hatred is reincarnated into someone, it is an Ocarina of Time. And here, Ganondorf does not want to use the evil weapon. He's gonna win this himself. But that doesn't mean he doesn't have use for it. And so he uses the magic that his adoptive mothers taught him to pull the ghost of Ganondorf / Ganon from Four Swords Adventures to create Phantom Ganon. Hence why it looks more like Ganondorf. It's pulling that ghost of the past Ganondorf to the present and allowing him to wield his trident once again, to give it another shot, to kill the hero. And of course he fails. And out of anger, Ganondorf sends him right back into the space where he came from, right to that space between realms. And Ganondorf doesn't use the trident. In the adult timeline, Trident's gone. In the child timeline, Trident is gone. But when Ganondorf wins, and we go to the downfall timeline, he wins. He gets the Triforce, but is instantly sealed away into the Sacred Realm. And the Sacred Realm is like a place between worlds. And as his wish fulfills, and it turns it into the Dark World, who's to say that that's not where the demons coalesce? I mean, where'd he get the army from for when he reattacks Hyrule later on? It's just the monsters and the demons who were there before, and who were already there, now taking home in the Dark World. And along with that is the Trident. The Trident that has Girahim inside of it, but just not active. And so he uses the Trident from then on. And that's how we get the downfall timeline with the Ganon with the Trident. That Trident is Girahim. Back up to the child timeline, where Ganon is foiled before his plan even starts, meaning that he does not create the Phantom Ganon that we know, meaning that he doesn't use the Trident, allowing for it to be sealed away. But maybe it takes on a form more common to itself, creating the Death Sword, with this giant demonic form being what's left of Girahim. This is all he can muster, and it is a lot. And he just uses the sword and blindly attacks the hero of courage who would dare come near him, because he knows that spirit, he knows that soul, and he will kill it. He will try his best to kill this Link. And he once again fails, as per usual. But I believe the Ganon's Trident is probably not Girahim, but I think it's a fun argument to make. And it does solve the question of where did Girahim go after Skyward Sword. What I do firmly believe is that following the existence of the Trident, we know that Four Swords Adventure has to come before Ocarina of Time, and therefore has to be right after Minish Cap, making it Minish Cap and Four Swords Adventure share the hero of the Minish/Four Sword. Thank you and good night.